The Clouds begins with a middle-aged Athenian man named Strepsiades, sleeping next to his teenage son, Pheidippides, in Athens, Greece during 423 BCE. Strepsiades wakes up early in the morning worried about his death. Pheidippides' costly horse racing habit is causing him financial problems. Pheidippides is awakened by Strepsiades, who urges him to go next door to the Thinkery, a school headed by the philosopher Socrates. He claims that Pheidippides will learn how to win an argument on any cause, just or unjust, and that he will help his father get out of his debt by doing so. Pheidippides, on the other hand, refuses. Strepsiades decides to enroll at the school. Strepsiades meets Socrates, who invites him to talk with the goddesses of the school, whom he calls to as the Clouds. The Clouds, as Socrates explains, become anything they wish and expose people for who they really are. The Clouds, or the Chorus, appear on stage to welcome the two gentlemen. Socrates reminds Strepsiades that rain and thunder are caused by the clouds, not Zeus. In awe of Socrates, Strepsiades agrees to studying with him and explains his need to escape his creditors. Socrates agrees to accept him as a pupil. Before they enter the school, he pulls off Strepsiades' cloak and shoes. Strepsiades comes up with a solution after Socrates tells him to think about his situation. Since creditors collect payments on the first day of the new moon, he'll keep the moon from rising, the new month. In court, Strepsiades suggests using glass to melt the scribe's writing. Socrates commends these ideas but gives up when Strepsiades declares he'd hang himself to avoid an accusation. Strepsiades is advised by the chorus leader to send his son in his place. Strepsiades brings a reluctant Pheidippides to the Thinkery, promising him all the wisdom he'll gain. Pheidippides believes that his father will come to regret his deeds one day. Socrates takes Pheidippides into the Thinkery after they arrive. Two men argue as they emerge from the Thinkery. The better argument is an old man, and the worse argument is a young man. The better argument defends justice, whereas the worse argument claims that justice does not exist. The two insult each other. "Stop fighting," says the chorus leader, "and present your points of views as rational arguments." The better argument promotes the self-control of past eras, when young men respected their elders and developed into respectable members of society. The worse argument counters that there's nothing wrong with self-indulgence and pleasure, and that discipline has never helped anyone. The worse argument believes that understanding how to argue one's way out of an allegation is far more useful than self-control. Citing audience members as examples, the better argument admits defeat. The chorus leader explains what the judges will gain if they honor the Clouds, and what they will lose if they don't. Strepsiades departs from his home. He's getting worried as the court deadline for paying his debts approaches, and he hopes Pheidippides has learned to argue. He visits the Thinkery, where Socrates assures him that he will win in court. Pheidippides, now a Thinkery scholar, returns home and informs Strepsiades of his victory. If the court collects debt on the day of the old moon and the new moon, they're attempting to extend one day into two and deceiving debtors. Strepsiades is delighted by his son's intelligence. Strepsiades' creditors make a visit to collect their money. When Strepsiades uses Pheidippides' argument about the old moon and the new moon, among other factors, as an excuse not to pay, they are unimpressed. They demand their money and promise to return. Strepsiades' scheme, the chorus sings, will eventually backfire. Strepsiades suddenly leaves his home, chased by Pheidippides, who is beating him. Strepsiades questions Pheidippides' justification for abusing his own father. Pheidippides, now that he's old enough to argue, claims that his father abused him as a child. Why can't he also hit his father? Strepsiades is worried because he believes that fathers have the right to discipline their sons. Pheidippides goes even further, claiming that hitting his mother is equally acceptable. The chorus is blamed by Strepsiades, the Clouds. They betrayed him when he put his trust in them. Strepsiades, according with chorus, brought his problem upon himself. Pheidippides tells his father that he is out of date and that he must leave. Strepsiades is ashamed because he has abandoned the gods in favor of Socrates. He seeks advice from the god Hermes' statue outside his home. Strepsiades sets fire to the Thinkery building, believing that the statue has instructed him to do so. Inside the school, the students and Socrates are terrified. The chorus thinks they've had enough and leaves as Strepsiades chases Socrates off stage.